Have you ever wondered what would have happened if Master Roshi sealed King Piccolo away? How that would affect the series, change character interactions in Dragon Ball, and whether or not it would have improved or hindered the events of history? Well, to answer your question, alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and I'm bringing you another what if scenario on what if Master Roshi sealed King Piccolo away with the Evil Containment wave. So let's get straight into this video. So, going back to some history, if Roshi successfully sealed King Piccolo away, Roshi would still die as a result of using the Evil Containment wave, better known as the Mafuba, as it still uses the user's life force. There is also another unexpected consequence. King Piccolo swallowed 2 Dragon Balls right before he confronted Roshi. This means that after Roshi seals away King Piccolo, whoever would close the rice cooker, whether it be Roshi in his dying moments or Chaozu who was hiding, will have to accept the fate of not having all 7 Dragon Balls. Now this brings up the subject of what would happen to Emperor Pilaf and his gang who was watching the entire thing from up above. Well, I know this may sound weird, but this would probably be the most relevant and powerful moment for Chaozu in the entire Dragon Ball series. In terms of power and fighting ability, neither Pilaf, Mai, and Shu are capable of dealing with Chaozu. The big question mark, however, is how much of a threat would Piano be to Chaozu, as he would obviously make an attempt to open the rice cooker and free King Piccolo. From what we see, however, Piano was never really shown to be a fighter like drum, cymbal, or tambourine, and even Piccolo Jr. So by default, Chaozu should be able to fight off Piano and the rest of the Pilaf gang, but my assumption is that he wouldn't kill them but would rather force them to flee. You will find out later on that killing them or them running away honestly doesn't make a major difference. The reason why I didn't mention Tien helping out Chaozu in this scenario is because Tien was knocked out for a long time right after King Piccolo had originally made his wish. This means that Tien may have been awake only long enough to coach Chaozu into fighting Piano and the Pilaf gang telepathically for a confidence boost, or to command Chaozu to close the rice cooker. I should also mention that Chaozu's psychic powers could be a major threat to the Pilaf gang and Piano, as his abilities were capable of even stopping Kid Goku from moving when he fought against Tien, who was stronger than all 4 of these characters. On a side note, I should point out that for the rice cooker, logic shows me that Bulma can safely put the rice cooker in one of her capsules in a safe place. Doing so would stop others from getting their hands on it. So from here on out, we move on to Goku. After Chaozu defeats the Pilaf gang and forces them to flee away, Goku would still be on his way to Korin's tower in order to heal from his previous fight with King Piccolo. The difference that would occur is that Goku would learn of Roshi's death, but he wouldn't have to directly deal with King Piccolo himself. This means that there would be no direct incentive to drink the sacred water. With that said, Goku and friends would still have a problem of Roshi and Krillin being dead and only having 5 Dragon Balls. Korin would be aware of this problem before even Goku knew of it, and because of this, logic still shows me that Korin would tell Goku to meet Kami up above. I have decided to explain 2 possible outcomes. In the first scenario, if Goku goes to the lookout and Kami decides to train him, this would result in Goku being significantly stronger. However, since King Piccolo is sealed, that would mean that Goku would not have an incentive to fight Piccolo Jr. In the other outcome, if Kami does not decide to train Goku along with Mr. Popo, Goku would still become stronger over time by training on his own will, and over time he would still grow into being the strongest fighter on Earth even without Kami's training. However, the gap between Goku's power and Tien's would be significantly smaller. Now, if you want to consider an unlikely third possible outcome where Kami does nothing at all for Goku, Goku would just spend the rest of his life without Krillin and Master Roshi and would be unable to use the Dragon Balls. So for all sakes and purposes, let's just consider the first 2 scenarios. In both scenarios, Kami, the creator of the Dragon Balls, would still go through the process of creating 2 more Dragon Balls for Goku and friends. The reason being is because Goku still has a good heart and is noble, from what Korin mentioned before. Kami would also be aware of the fact that Goku has done good deeds for the Earth, such as defeating the Red Ribbon Army, so he would put his trust in Goku to use the Dragon Balls effectively. In addition, in case of emergency, Kami himself would want to be able to use the Dragon Balls and would know that only having 5 Dragon Balls would not work. Regardless of which scenario you choose, Krillin and Roshi would be revived, and 3 years would then pass until the 23rd tournament. The only real difference between these two scenarios is the fact that Goku would obviously be significantly more powerful in one scenario than the other. Now, I must say that creating a what-if scenario for the 23rd tournament is very complicated because the selection process of who fights who is random. I will say this, however, depending on who fights who and in what round, Yajirobe, Chaozu, and King Choppa all have a significantly higher chance of making it to the top 8 since Kami and Piccolo Jr. aren't around to be in the tournament. Ultimately, Goku should emerge as champion for the first time. Depending on the seeding of the tournament, Tien should emerge as the runner-up depending on where the seeding placed him. On a side note, even if Goku does not fight Chi-Chi directly, he would still at some point confront her, and she would still want to bring up the marriage ordeal. Goku would get married, and then we would move on to Dragon Ball Z. Now, here is where things go wrong once again. If Raditz shows up, there is absolutely no possible scenario that I can see Goku defeating Raditz without Piccolo's help. If Tien fought him, maybe he could do some damage with the Tri-Beam, better known as the Kikuho, but I honestly think that that is just too far of a hypothetical scenario to imagine. So, if we assume that Gohan is still born, Raditz can take Gohan for himself or possibly kill him with the rest of the Earth. I know it sucks to say this, guys, but this is a negative outcome. Goku would have put up an even worse fight than he originally did, since Piccolo wouldn't have been around to incentivize him to train more, in addition to already being weaker than he originally was. Now, just to be generous, I will share with you an extremely super hypothetical scenario that I rejected. The only possible semi-positive super hypothetical outcome that could have taken place is that if Raditz decides to just take Gohan away and just completely ignores killing Earth's civilians and destroying the whole planet. Since he wouldn't learn about the Dragon Balls as Piccolo originally told him before he died, that means Vegeta and Nappa wouldn't go to Earth. In this time, the Z Fighters could use the Dragon Balls to wish Goku back, and they could also use the Dragon Balls to wish for Gohan to come back to Earth as well. If all of that managed to work out, things would be fine all the way up to the point of the Android arc, as Dr. Gero was planning on taking his revenge ever since the Red Ribbon Army was destroyed. Although the androids and possibly Cell would be weaker or different, Goku and the others would stand absolutely no chance against the androids. Now, if you disagree with me that the androids would show up in the super hypothetical scenario, and if we assume that Raditz would never come back to get Gohan, and if we assume even more that Goku trained with King Kai in the afterlife, and if we assume that Babidi would never arrive, and if we assume that Frieza would never explore Earth, and if we assume that Beerus would never have an incentive of meeting Goku, then you guys have yourselves a super positive scenario in addition to Raditz completely ignoring the Earth and completely ignoring killing all of the other Z Fighters. But I'm sure that you guys can see exactly why I rejected that scenario. That scenario is just way too hypothetical. So with all of the scenario stuff said, let's talk about some major character interactions. Goku would be much weaker than before, but can still have a child with Chi-Chi. For those of you who are curious about what would happen to his tail, remember that when he trained with Kami, Kami brought back the moon in exchange for cutting it off. In the other scenario that Goku doesn't train with Kami, the moon would still be destroyed. That basically means that both Goku and Kid Gohan would be safe to be around at night. In terms of Gohan, Gohan would never be a fighter and would never create a bond with Piccolo. For Chi-Chi, she would have raised Gohan to never be a fighter. For Bulma, she may stay with Yamcha and may even possibly have a child with him in the future, assuming they don't break up. Kami would never enter the 23rd tournament and may or may not train Goku depending on which scenario you accept. He would still have a reason to help out with the Dragon Balls, however. Mr. Popo is similar to Kami in that he may or may not have trained Goku depending on which scenario you accept as well. King Piccolo would stay sealed as the Pilaf gang, and or Piano would have absolutely no way of finding where Bulma has the cooker sealed. For the Pilaf gang, if they were not killed by Chaozu, they would continue their minor conquests on Earth, left to be ignored as they are no longer a major threat. For Piano, if not killed by Chiaotzu, he would spend the rest of his life looking for his father, but would definitely be unable to do so. As I mentioned before, he would be irrelevant to the story and to the Z Fighters in terms of power. Chiaotzu would have been a hero in this scenario and may actually participate in the 23rd Martial Arts Tournament, assuming Mercenary Tao didn't knock him out in the preliminaries. Tien may or may not have fought Mercenary Tao in the tournament, but personally I think Tao would have attempted to have fought Tien even outside of the ring. The reason why I say this is because he was willing to break the rules in order to try to kill Tien anyways. Tien would then be the second strongest fighter on Earth, and nothing suggests that his relationship with Launch would have changed. For Master Shen, better known as Suru Senin, he most likely would have lived in isolation with his brother, as both Tien and Chiaotzu would already have left him. Vegeta would have never have come to the Earth and would never have become an ally. For Krillin, the only thing that would really change is that depending on who he fights in the 23rd tournament, he could have advanced even further considering the fact that Piccolo Jr. wasn't there, and he would never have a child with Android 18. And finally, for Master Roshi himself, the focus of this what if scenario, not much would really change for his character except for the fact that his death would not have been wasted and he would have been Earth's hero. JaxBlade suggests that he would spend the rest of his life living on his island, watching movies and reading magazines of a certain genre. So guys, that has been my video for today. This is definitely a negative outcome. If you want me to really pick between the two scenarios that I said would happen, I would think the scenario of Kami not training Goku is slightly more likely, as Goku defeating King Piccolo was what really inspired Kami in the first place. Overall, as weird as it is to say this, Master Roshi actually saved the Earth by failing to stop King Piccolo and missing the rice cooker from all of the events that I pointed out in this video. I'd also like to thank JaxBlade for helping me plan out some of the events of this video, so please check out his channel in my description. So with that said, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and remember, as I always say, to have a great day guys, and for our hashtag of the day, I have to catch a Namek.